why love is optional, fear is useful, and hate is fatal in the game of power. You're walking through a doorway. On one side is control, on the other, collapse. In between is a razor-thin line, and that line is made of perception: how others see you, how they feel about you, and whether they believe, deep down, that you belong on the throne you sit upon. Now pause and ask yourself this: if people only obey you because they fear you, do you truly have power, or are you borrowing it from their silence? And if they hate you, how long before they rise up to take it back? This is the ancient dilemma Niccolo Machiavelli put on the world's table centuries ago. He asked not what should be, but what is. He didn't dress power in morality. He stripped it down to its bones. And what he found is both terrifying and clarifying. It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. But he made one thing overwhelmingly clear: you must never be hated. Hate, he wrote, is the poison that rots power from within. Respect and fear, these may keep your throne warm, but hatred, that is the slow fuse wired to the foundations of your empire. Now, I'm not here to teach you how to manipulate people. I'm here to wake you up to how power actually works within governments, corporations, families, friend groups, and most of all, within yourself. Because whether you seek power or not, you are always in a power dynamic. Every human relationship is a negotiation of influence. And what Machiavelli teaches us is that power isn't just about having control. It's about sustaining it. And sustaining power is not about love. It's about balancing fear, respect, and the absence of hate. Let's break that down. Respect is the foundation. Without it, you're ignored, irrelevant. You could be the most loving, generous, charismatic person, but if you're not respected, your influence is transient. Respect makes people listen. Then comes fear, not terror, not cruelty, but a sense of consequence. A leader, a parent, a teacher, a boss who is respected but not feared is at risk of being tested, undermined, or overrun. Fear, in the Machiavellian sense, is a psychological boundary. It says, I will not be taken lightly. But here's where it gets dark. Fear is powerful, but volatile. Push too far, and fear mutates into hate. And once hatred enters the room, your days are numbered.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
And this is the paradox. Fear wins obedience. Hate breeds resistance. So the art is not in being feared, it's in being feared just enough. That's a razor's edge most people can't walk. Why? Because fear is intoxicating. When people obey you, flatter you, yield to you, it feels like loyalty. But if it's driven by fear alone, it's not loyalty. It's survival. And survival is temporary. Eventually, people stop surviving and start plotting. They bide their time. They look for cracks. They whisper in corners. And one day, when the moment is right, they revolt. This is where Machiavelli was brutally honest. He didn't romanticize power. He dissected it. He saw what most leaders were too proud to admit. You don't need to be loved, you need to be respected and feared in equal measure. But you must never, ever be hated. Because hatred is different from fear. Hatred is personal. It lingers. It multiplies. And it doesn't just want your crown, it wants your destruction. Let's pause. Think of someone in your life who holds power, maybe a boss, a political figure, someone in your family. Ask yourself, do I respect them? Do I fear them? Do I hate them? And then flip the mirror. How do people feel about you? If you're honest, you'll start to see patterns. The people we respect and slightly fear, we listen to them. The people we love but don't respect, we overlook them. And the people we hate, even if we obey them, we secretly look forward to their fall. So how do we walk this line? How do we build power without breeding hate? Machiavelli offers a few brutal but effective rules. First, don't take what people love. He famously said it's safer to take someone's father than their inheritance, because people will forgive many things but not the loss of what they treasure. Second, hide your cruelty in necessity. If you must be harsh, make it swift, decisive, and explainable. People will tolerate severity if they understand it, but they will never tolerate humiliation. That breeds hate faster than anything. Third, manage perception. It's not enough to be strong, you must appear strong. Not invincible, not aloof, but stable. People need to believe you are capable of protecting them and capable of punishing them. Let's go deeper. Power isn't just politics or leadership. It's presence. It's the power you carry in your boundaries, your decisions, your energy, and the same laws apply. If you are overly soft, people will take advantage. If you are overly harsh, people will hide resentment. But if you stand firm, speak clearly, and act with consistency, you generate respect. And from that, a certain kind of fear, not fear of you as a tyrant, but fear of disappointing you, crossing you, losing your trust. That's the kind of fear that strengthens relationships, not weakens them. But here's where things get existential. Even if you master this balance, even if you are respected, wisely feared, and never hated, power is still fleeting. Why? Because people change, cultures shift. The same behaviors that win you power today might destroy you tomorrow. That's why true power, sustainable power, requires self-awareness. You have to read the room, read the era, read yourself. Otherwise, you'll use yesterday's strategies in today's world and wonder why everything's falling apart. So I'll leave you with this question. Do you want power for the sake of control or for the sake of truth? Because if it's just control, fear might get you there. But if it's truth, if it's leadership, legacy, meaning, then you'll need more than tactics. You'll need integrity. You'll need emotional intelligence. You'll need to know when to be feared, when to be loved, and when to simply be silent. Machiavelli doesn't give us comfort. He gives us clarity. And in a world where power is everywhere, social, digital, political, emotional, that clarity is more valuable than ever. How Machiavelli's laws shape empires, corporations, and our personal lives. Power doesn't just exist in thrones and palaces. It lives in boardrooms, classrooms, social circles, dinner tables, and even in your own head. If you've ever tried to influence someone, set a boundary, lead a group, or even just assert your identity, you've touched power. And whether or not you realize it, you're already building your own architecture of power. The only question is it stable, or is it silently crumbling? Machiavelli understood that power is not merely held, it must be constructed, maintained, and defended. And like any architecture, it requires structure, balance, and the ability to withstand pressure. Let's look at how this plays out, not just in theory but in real life. Think about political leaders who rose quickly through charisma and idealism. They were loved, but they weren't feared. And when trouble came, economic collapse, war, scandal, they lacked the authority to act decisively. The crowd that once adored them turned cold, because love is fragile when it isn't backed by respect. Now think of powerful CEOs who built billion-dollar companies through uncompromising decisions. They were feared and respected, but some went too far. They cut too deep, humiliated too publicly, neglected culture for profit. Slowly, hate began to fester in the walls. Whistleblowers emerged. Revolts broke out. And the empire they built on fear began to rot from within. Machiavelli would have watched this and said, they crossed the line. They became hated and forgot that hate is the one force power cannot survive. So how do we build something that lasts? Whether it's a company, a legacy, or a personal standard. It begins with clarity. You must know what kind of power you're trying to build. Is it rooted in inspiration, in strategy, in fear, in example? You need to choose your foundation, because that foundation will shape every decision you make. And then comes consistency. People don't just respond to what you do, they respond to whether what you do matches what you say. If you promise fairness but rule with favoritism, you breed resentment. If you claim strength but fold under conflict, you lose credibility. And once credibility is gone, fear turns to mockery and respect turns to doubt. But even more essential than clarity or consistency is containment. Power, like fire, must be contained. If it spreads too far, if it becomes about domination rather than influence, it starts to consume the person who holds it. This is why Machiavelli warned leaders not to become too cruel, too indulgent, too greedy, because the more you take, the more others will plot. The more you control, the more others will resist. And eventually, even the most feared ruler will face the one force more powerful than fear: collective hatred. Let's bring this closer to home. Think about your family, your friendships, your workplace. Who holds power? How do they hold it? Do they lead through fear, through inspiration, through manipulation? And more importantly, how do you hold power? Because you do. Maybe not over a kingdom, but over your time, your energy, your voice. That's power. And if you don't understand how to wield it, someone else will use it for you. This is why Machiavelli's philosophy is so dangerous and so valuable. He doesn't tell us to be good. He tells us to be effective, and that's uncomfortable. We want to believe that good intentions are enough, that if we're kind, people will follow. But Machiavelli says, no. People follow strength. People follow certainty. People follow power that doesn't flinch. And if you don't cultivate that inner authority, you'll be ruled by those who do regardless of their morality. This is not a call to become ruthless. It's a call to become aware, to understand that power is not evil, it's neutral. It becomes evil when wielded without conscience. It becomes good when wielded with wisdom. And wisdom, in Machiavellian terms, means knowing how people actually behave, not how we wish they would. It means understanding that fear can protect peace, that respect can command loyalty, and that hate, once born, is nearly impossible to contain. And here's the twist. Sometimes we hate ourselves in the same way others hate bad leaders, when we betray our values, when we let people walk all over us, when we fail to act decisively. We begin to lose self-respect, and slowly, that internal power structure collapses. The voice that once guided us becomes quiet. The will to act fades, and we become, in Machiavellian terms, vulnerable not to others but to ourselves. So I'll ask you something risky. Where in your life are you losing power? Not because someone took it, but because you gave it away. Where do you seek love without demanding respect? Where do you tolerate hate because you're afraid to be feared? These are not easy questions, but they are necessary. Because when you answer them, you start to rebuild your own architecture of power. One that doesn't need to dominate, one that doesn't need to be adored, one that simply stands calm, firm, and unshakable. Machiavelli was not a monster. He was a mirror. He showed humanity its own reflection, stripped of illusions. And if we're brave enough to look, we might just find the keys not only to power, but to freedom. The power you can't fake. Why true authority comes from within and how to build it without losing your soul. There's a kind of power that can't be bought, borrowed, demanded, or faked. It doesn't come from titles, money, followers, or threats. It comes from within, from the alignment between your inner world and the way you walk through the outer one. This is the power Machiavelli hinted at, but never fully explored: the power of self-mastery. Because while he taught us how to rule others, the deeper and often more difficult task is learning how to rule ourselves. And here's the paradox. The more you govern your own mind, emotions, and impulses, the less you need to control others to feel powerful. That's the kind of authority people sense without you having to say a word. It's the calm in your voice when others panic, the clarity in your decisions when others hesitate, the strength in your silence when others scream. But this kind of power can't be built on fear or manipulation. It's built on truth, and truth is dangerous in a world obsessed with appearances. So most people fake power. They put on a mask of certainty. They imitate confidence. They posture. They dominate. But something always feels off, because power that isn't rooted in internal alignment always leaks insecurity. You've felt this before: the boss who yells to hide his weakness, the influencer who begs for validation with every post, the friend who dominates every conversation but falls apart the moment they're alone. That isn't power. That's fear in disguise. And Machiavelli, if he were alive today, would tell us, fear is effective but only when you're not the one feeling it. So how do we build real power? Not the kind that crumbles under pressure, but the kind that endures. We start by confronting ourselves, our shadows, our contradictions, our unhealed wounds. Because as long as we are ruled by what we refuse to face, we are not in power, we are in hiding. And every time we pretend to be strong while avoiding our own weakness, we deepen the split inside. That split is what leads to the kind of cruelty Machiavelli warned about: the unnecessary violence, the insecurity masked as dominance, the slow slide into tyranny. But when you face yourself, when you integrate the parts of you that feel unworthy, angry, afraid, you stop needing external control. You become the kind of person people respect because you respect yourself. You become someone who can be feared, not because you punish, but because you don't flinch when others would. This is the type of leader, friend, or human who doesn't need to be loved to be listened to. They don't demand loyalty, they inspire it. They don't fear being hated because they know who they are, and that changes everything. When your authority comes from within, you no longer need to perform. You no longer need to manipulate outcomes or micromanage people. You can let go of trying to be liked. You can stop chasing external validation. Because the deepest authority, the kind that outlasts kingdoms, is the authority of someone who has nothing to prove. And ironically, that's the person who ends up with the most power. Why? Because people trust them, not out of fear, not out of infatuation, but out of something far rarer: respect for their truth. So let's end here with a challenge and a question. The challenge is this: stop chasing the illusion of power. Stop performing strength. Instead, build it quietly, internally, relentlessly. Ask yourself, where am I out of alignment? Where am I pretending to be confident when I'm afraid? Where am I seeking to control others because I haven't yet learned to govern myself? These are the questions that separate rulers from tyrants, leaders from performers, and souls who rise from those who crumble. Because in the end, Machiavelli wasn't telling us to be feared. He was warning us. If you don't understand the true nature of power, you'll lose it before you even realize it was yours to begin with.